Hey guys, John here from Sonic Drive Studio. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're checking out this really cool, interesting and unique pedal by Saint Rock, the Amperium Live. So this is basically an amp modeling platform as well as a multi-effects unit. So you can kind of compare it to something like the HX Stomp or the FM3, devices like that basically. So as you can see, it's quite compact and small, but it's quite powerful, especially when it comes to the amp modeling. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at this device and see what it can do, and specifically focus on the amp modeling because this thing has some great amp tones in it. Before we dive in, let's see if the Amperium Live can RECTO. Check it out. Alright, that certainly sounded very amp-like, really impressive, especially considering the fact that not many amp modelers are able to capture that Mesa rectifier sound, and this thing certainly nailed it in my opinion. Really cool indeed, loved that tone. So that was my ESP LTD Phoenix Arctic Metal with the EMG pickup in it, straight into the pedal. And let's take a quick look at the preset that I created for that tone. And all the presets in this video will be very simple and basic, just a noise gate up front, a preamp with a matching power amp, a cabinet IR, and some very subtle room reverb. And for this rectifier sound, I chose the RECTO 3 modern amp model on the red channel. You can also choose the orange channel. And I used the default power amp, which is the Mesa MD power amp. And in the cab block, I'm using the OwnHammer 412 RECT Essentials high gain IR on the high res mode, which is the 177 millisecond mode. And of course, this device allows you to load many IRs, which is always welcome. And in the reverb block, I'm using some subtle room reverb just to make it sound a little bit more roomy and lively, basically. And that's it, very simple. But with this thing, you don't need very complex rigs or presets in order to get a very amp-like tone, so that's really nice. So the Amperium Live has component-based amp modeling, which is very cool because it does make the amp models very realistic. But it also means that a bunch of the included amp models have some nice features, like different channels to choose from or various revisions from one amplifier. So for example, the EVH amplifiers let you choose between the 50 watt or the 100 watt revision. And the JCM 800, for example, has a bunch of different revisions as well. So different flavors of that amplifier, basically. Many of the amplifiers also have a bunch of switches, like the Friedman BE100 amplifier, for example. That has all the switches, like the fat switch and the C45 switch. So all of that really helps with the realism and the tweakability of the amp models, which I absolutely love. Not only that, but you can also choose your preamp tube types. And in the power amp, you can choose the power amp tube types and also choose between some different biasing options, like a hot or cold bias or an ideal bias somewhere in between. You can also mix and match the pre and power amps, which is cool. And you can also choose various impedance curves. So yeah, that's a whole lot of tweakability, and considering that this thing has a lot of built-in amp models, that's really nice. I love that, to be honest. Now, of course, this pedal also has some effects like reverb, drives, modulation, and stuff like that. Not a whole lot, but the ones that I tried were pretty good. You can also change the routing of the effects, and of course there's also an effects loop. We have an input on the back, XLR outs with a ground and lift switch, a headphones out, an aux in, and a MIDI in. So that's not a whole lot of options in terms of ins and outs, but I guess the main stuff that you would want is on here. Anyway, I'm most interested in the amp modeling, so that's what I'm going to focus on today, okay? Another thing that this pedal can do is load neural network models. So that's basically captures or profiles of your amplifiers, kind of like what Tonex does. However, I have not tried that yet for two reasons. The first reason is that I simply didn't really feel the need, since the stock amp models in here are already very, very good. But not only that, I also checked a tutorial online on how to make those neural network modeling models, basically. And it wasn't really easy. The workflow is kind of clunky and you have to do it all on your computer. And yeah, it just wasn't really inspiring for me. But maybe I'll do that in another future video. I mean, it's cool to have that option for sure. I do like it when devices offer that feature. I mean, Tonex is great for that. But the workflow has to be easy. And yeah, since the amp models in here are just so good, I didn't really feel the need, as I said. Another thing that I want to mention is that you can control this device via the USB editor on your PC, but you can also tweak or edit the pedal settings via Bluetooth, which is nice. So you can download the app on your mobile device and then tweak the device from there. Okay, enough of that. Now let's check out some more tones, and let's try an EVH amp model for a nice and heavy and tight metal tone. Check it out. Alright, very nice. That was my ESP LTD Phoenix Black Metal into one of the EVH amp models. I chose the EV5153 Red amp model, and I used the 100 watt revision mode and the default power amp option again. Again with the gate on and the room reverb, and in the cab block this time I'm using the OwnHammer 412 EDVH Essentials with the high gain mic mix. Sounds great to me, really captures that EVH tone quite well. So again, another nailed amp tone. Awesome. Let's do one more. This time I want to try an orange tone because those amplifiers can also be hard to capture in the digital realm. So let's try the Rockerverb amp model. Let's check it out. Cool, another sweet tone. That really nailed that orange Rockerverb character. Absolutely awesome. Now for that, I used my ESP LTD NW44 with the bare knuckle aftermath pickup into the pedal, of course, with the Orangi Rockerverb amp model into the default power amp. Same setup as before with the gate and the reverb. And this time I'm using the OwnHammer 412 ORNG Essentials IR. Again, the high gain mic mix to be precise. So in terms of the amp modeling, this thing is amazing. The quality is super high. It sounds great and it feels great to play through as well. And there are so many cool and also unique amplifiers to choose from. We got various Friedmans, Marshalls, the Oranges, various Mesa Boogie amplifiers, and some rare boutique amplifiers as well. And they all sound great, and they all have a bunch of cool options to tweak the tone, so that's really nice. And of course, you can go even further by tweaking the tubes, the power amp tubes, maybe trying a different power amp, different power tube biasing, a different impedance curve, etc., etc. It's not a perfect pedal though, but does that matter? Well, depends on how you look at it. To me, it really doesn't matter because the most important thing is the sound. And the sound is there. This thing sounds incredible. And in terms of the amp modeling, it's right up there with the best of the best. And I mean that. But yeah, there are certainly some things that can be improved. For example, there's no volume control on the pedal, only this headphone volume control, which is kind of weird. And even inside the menus and stuff like that, I couldn't find a global master volume control. So that's kind of weird. And I wish that there was a volume control on this thing. Now dialing in the tones on the unit itself with these switches over here and this control isn't bad. I mean, it's not a lot of fun, but it does get the job done. And there aren't a lot of switches, so the learning curve is a little bit steep, but within a couple minutes, I think you'll get the hang of it. Luckily, there's the PC editor, of course. However, when I edited the tones on my PC, the physical controls on the unit did not respond until I disconnected the thing from my computer. Another thing that I noticed when editing the pedal on the computer is that when you dial in the controls, the sound only changes after you're done dialing in the controls, if that makes sense. So when you're dialing a control, say the gain control, you won't hear a difference until you stop tweaking. So you can't hear the changes in real time, basically. I also didn't find any stock neural network models in here. So it would be nice if they added some in the future, just so you can try some for yourself without having to model your own pieces of gear. And another thing that was a little bit annoying to me is that the editor didn't allow me to upload multiple IRs at once. So I had to do it one by one. So that was a bit clunky as well. So it would be great if batch uploading of IRs would be possible in the future. Anyway, so stuff like that makes the workflow a little bit clunky and it doesn't make it perfect. It's not really sleek. You can't really compare it to something like a Helix, for example. But again, as I said, does it matter? I don't know, because the amp model sounds so good. And to me personally, that's the most important thing. So I think that this thing is awesome in that regard, okay? So it's not a perfect pedal, but it shines where it's the most important with the core amp model tones, because those are really, really, really impressive. Thanks to the guys of Saint Rock for sending this over to me from the Ukraine. I really appreciate it. Definitely check out their website for more information on this product. I'll put a link in the description below. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it useful. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like and subscribe down below, as that really helps the channel out. And you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers!